Mr. Wolf, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, there are only 3 more days until the August recess. Given that no new public hearings are scheduled on Benghazi, it's apparent that the questions I've been asking for the past 2 weeks and the American people have been asking for more than 10 months will not be answered by the 1-year anniversary of the Benghazi attack, if ever. After a year of investigation in 5 different committees, we still do not know what happened, and no one's been held responsible. The House and the Senate have failed. Is it any wonder that the American people are losing confidence in their government? This is even more remarkable given that over 2 months ago, senior administration officials admitted to the media that they failed to properly respond to the attack in Benghazi, yet the Congress never pressed the matter further. In a little noticed article published on Friday, May 17th, CBS News' Cheryl Atkinson reported that, quote, Obama administration officials who were in key positions on September 11, 2012, acknowledged that a range of mistakes were made that night of the attacks on the U.S. mission in Benghazi, end of quote. Atkinson continued, quote, the list of mea culpas by Obama administration officials involved in the Benghazi response and aftermath include standing down the counterterrorism foreign emergency support team and failing to convene the counterterrorism security group, among others. One of the key revelations from anonymous senior administration officials is the admission that it refused to deploy the Foreign Emergency Support Team, FEST. According to an article, the FEST's own mission statement describes a seasoned team of counterterrorism professionals who can respond quickly and effectively to terrorist attacks, providing the fastest assistance possible, including hostage negotiating experience, time-sensitive information, and intelligence. In fact, FEST leader Mark Thompson says Benghazi was precisely the sort of crisis which his team is trained to respond. The article continued, as soon as word of the Benghazi attack reached Washington, FEST members instinctively started packing, said the official involved in the response. They were told they were not deploying by Patrick Kennedy's front office. In hindsight, I probably would have pushed a button, end of quote. It's particularly notable that the administration's sources pinned the decision not just on the State Department leadership, but also on the White House. Quote, while it was the State Department that said to have FEST taken off the table, the team is directed by the White House National Security Council. Speaking of the White House role in directing the response, Atkinson reported that the National Security Council also failed to convene the Interagency Counterterrorism Security Group, CSG, that evening. The article noted, quote, according to a public military document, it's part of a plan to synchronize the efforts of all the government agencies that have a role to play in the global war on terrorism. But on September 11, 2012, the Obama administration did not convene this body of terrorism expert advisors, end of quote. Given the number of agencies involved in the response, including the State Department, CIA, and Defense Department, it's hard to understand why the NSC's Interagency Terrorism Response Group wouldn't be convened. As Atkinson noted, because the CSG wasn't assembled, quote, there's evidence that some high-level decision makers were unaware of all available resources. In October, on a phone call that included then Deputy National Security Advisor Dennis McDonough, now White House Chief of Staff, NSC spokesman Tommy Vietor initially told CBS News, quote, I didn't know what FAST is. It sounds antiquated, end of quote. Who are the anonymous senior administration officials who admitted their mistakes to CBS? Why haven't they testified to Congress about these mistakes? Why wasn't the FEST team deployed immediately? Last week, General Ham admitted that he believed Ambassador Stevens may have been taken hostage by terrorists. Given the FEST team's terrorism and hostage negotiation expertise, who made the decision not to deploy them? Why didn't the White House convene the CSG that night to coordinate the interagency response to the attack? And if that group wasn't responsible for coordination, who was? While the agency was leading the response that night, what agency? Was the State Department directing the Pentagon not to deploy its planes or response team while also not sending the FEST team? Mr. Speaker, I conclude with an important quote in the CBS article from NSC spokesman Tommy Vietor. Quote, from the moment President Obama was briefed on the Benghazi attack, the response effort was handled by the most senior national security officials in government. The mistakes these anonymous senior officials admit to mattered. Lives were on the line. Ultimately, lives were lost. The Congress must compel these most senior national security officials responsible for the response team that night to testify publicly. We need a bipartisan select committee, and if we do not do it, the Congress and the House will have failed. I yield back.